Welcome back to Fixing My Faith. My name is Vern. I'll be your host for the next few minutes. Last video, we discussed how Jehovah's Witness teachings can damage brain development in children. And that was quite interesting. If you haven't seen that one yet, it's the previous video to this one. So today we're going to take a look at adults, and we're going to look at stress, what stress does to adults. And if you remember the last video, we were talking about the hippocampus and the amygdala in the brain, and how these two parts of the brain react and cause different things to happen within our body. Now, here it says, this medical doctor says, the fact that human cognition, like learning and memory processes, may be affected by stress is well known. Yet many studies have been done on the effect of stress on memory. Lindbergh, Jones, McCormick, Collard, and Stewart, 2001, in a study involving young children, found that people undergoing stress may lose small details within their memories. So this is interesting for a Jehovah's Witness, because a Jehovah's Witness goes through a lot of stress. Now, we'll just look at some of the things here, the number of forgotten nonsense syllable conditions, and they're doing some experiments on this. So it shows, there's a graph showing that there's a big difference for the ones that are losing memories. So it talks about how stress causes our bodies to react differently, and our nervous system is affected by stress. It goes on to show the normal levels of resistance, the three phases of general adaptation syndrome: alarm reaction, stage of resistance, and stage of exhaustion. You ever feel like that as a JW? I was a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years, so always we were stressed. And this little chart shows that this is a threatening situation. Well, if the end's coming any day now, it's a threatening situation. So what does your body do? Well, this HPA axis, this hypothalamus, and it goes through all these glands and so forth, but it excites our adrenal system. Our adrenal glands inside are excited because we're ready for the end any day now. So this is what goes on inside ourselves. We have our environmental input, our sensory registers, our visual, auditory, hepatic, short-term memory, long-term memory, permanent storage. Then we have our temporary working memory, control processes, rehearsals, coding, decisions, retrieval strategies, and then what comes out of our mouth. So there's a lot going on inside our head, and our brain's going back and forth using all of these things. So what this study is saying is that we're losing some memory if we're always under stress. Now, a lot of people wonder, what kind of stress are Jehovah's Witnesses really under? Now, this is a video here. I'm going to put the link in, and it was done by ABC News in Depth out of Australia, and they have 1.24 million subscribers. So this is an Australian broadcast. I'm not going to play it because of copyright, but I can actually go through it, and I'm just going to show you here. They actually put an announcement, and so they said that these pictures here are were a threat. They actually warned people of these pictures. So these are pictures. These are Jehovah's Witness pictures, and if you look at the faces of the people there, so you notice it's this guy with his daughters and his boy. Well, probably the mom isn't there because she turned to salt, and that's what's happened here. Maybe she went back to the world, and this could be. Look at the fear in their faces. The little boy and the dad. So this is pictures that Jehovah's Witnesses art studio puts out for their people. Here's another one. If you look at this picture, so you see all the tanks on the ground, and all the armies coming in. The angels are up there, of course, and of course these are the Jehovah's Witnesses coming into the house to hide, waiting for Jehovah. And then it shows some of the other stuff. So here the angels are guarding Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, this war is going on, the end days, You see, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe that they're going to be raptured up or any of that stuff, but they believe that they're going to be going through all of this. And then we'll just play this a little bit. And then there's this video where people are leaving the city, but you look at them, they're all happy. They're happy that all those people died. So what does this do inside the mind, to be happy that all the people around have died, but we've been saved because we've been selected? That's kind of what this picture's saying. So this is another picture, where something's going to come and cause this Armageddon to happen. Here, these guys talk about it. And then it comes here and it's showing all these pictures of this Armageddon coming. And look at the faces of the people. If we would just stop there and look at these people. So are they on the good side? This is a picture from Watchtower. And they really paint a lot of pictures, is what they do in their propaganda. And they use these pictures, and they're building a movie studio, and they're going to show more end time pictures. So it's just going from bad to worse. This is a good video to watch.
Temporarily shuttered the organization's Kingdom halls.
Now the words coronavirus and COVID-19.
But the Jehovah's Witnesses believe COVID is a sign of impending doom.
The spread of this disease is distressing, to be sure. But we're really not surprised to see the world in the grip of such pestilence, are we? Jesus made it clear at Luke 21:11 that pestilence would be part of the sign of the last days.
Give me courage, with courage. The organization's in-house production studio pumps out slick instructional videos that deliver its unchanged message. The end is coming for everyone except them.
So it's interesting when you look at that. You look at how the angels and everything are coming out of the heavens. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe. They believe this stuff. So we're just going to leave off there. We'll put that video in there. You guys can watch it. What we're going to talk about is what these visual images do to the brains of Jehovah's Witnesses. So we're going to look at complex post-traumatic stress disorder and those who lead cults. Now, this article was done by Lady Lee. Lady Lee is here. She's joined 22 years ago. She started 794 topics. So you can send her messages here. So Lee Marshall Abuse Recovery page. So she deals with abuse and recovery. And I thank her. She's done a really good job of this article. This article is hosted by jehovahswitnesses.com. So anybody can see this article. I'll leave a link for it. So Lady Lee goes on to say, quite a few people on the JWD have said they suffer from complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and they call that C-PTSD. I'm not sure how well this issue has been discussed, but C-PTSD is slightly different than PTSD. PTSD requires some traumatic incident that can leave a mark on the psyche. C-PTD results for repeated incidents, as in prisoners of war, victims of child abuse and spousal hostage situations, combat soldiers, and those who lived in cults. So that would apply to us as Jehovah's Witnesses. Through this process of reading this and you following along, I'm going to see if I still have some of the effects of C-PTSD, because it was just recently that I really officially started to wake up. And it takes years, I feel, to wake up out of that religion, out of the cult. So most people who have lived in a cult or a high control group, such as JWs, will experience many of the symptoms of C-PTSD. And there's a book that she mentions there. So the Trauma and Recovery by Judith Lewis Herman some researchers and therapists have made a distinction between these two. So, number one, a history of subjection to totalitarian control over prolonged periods or months to years. Examples includes, as we said, hostages, prisoners of war, concentration camps, and some religious cults. Examples also include those subjected to totalitarian system in sexual and domestic life, including survivors of domestic battering, childhood physical abuse, and other organized sexual exploitations. One of the identifying factors in cults is that they have an almost complete control over members. People are not encouraged to think for themselves. They are not allowed to question, since that is seen as an act of rebellion. Strict sanctions are placed on those who refuse to conform or choose to leave, and the control can even continue long after a person has left the cult. Cults are known to have control over a person's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So, as we've seen in the pictures, the Jehovah's Witnesses, JW org, or the governing body, they're moving to a universal movie studio, and they now want to produce full movies to continue to brainwash people that are going to watch their movies. Now, persistence, dysphoria, inappropriate expression of feelings. So, having spent years controlling how they express or repress emotional responses, many people have difficulty in this area. For example, they may laugh when sadness or anger would be even more appropriate response. So we even see this in the pictures when the JW people are leaving the city, and I can just go back there and we'll look at this. So they're leaving the city here. We'll watch this. There we are. And this is their little movie, or some of their slides, but here it is. So here it is. Here's an example, even in their own literature, that when they leave the cult, or I mean, when they leave this Armageddon, the city Armageddon comes, everyone's happy. Like, why would everyone be happy when and laughing? You see, everyone's happy and laughing, and it's a cheerful time. But all of those people died. In fact, this guy, we talked about it earlier, it's probably his wife turned to salt in the city. His wife is not there. So Jehovah's Witnesses are showing people that there's a division within the families. Probably his wife woke up, is what they're saying, and she's in the city. You see, this is what they would teach. And this picture is so important, because I was in this religion for 30 years. The book study overseer would take the picture, and he would spend most of his time on the pictures in the books. And now they have movies. So the level of indoctrination is deep now, and it's going to become deeper. And that's why it's important that we bring this stuff out to the general public, and especially since that we've been in the cult for so many years for a lot of us. So yeah, the cult will control when you laugh. So if something disastrous has happened, well, here the cult is all laughing, and it's hard to say how they feel in different situations. So chronic suicidal preoccupation. Losing one's family, friends, and religion can make one feel very isolated after years of being told they are worth nothing and God will destroy them. Many feel hopeless and may see suicide as a way out. Some may still believe that if they die before Armageddon, they may have a chance for the resurrection when they can be reunited with family. And then there's self-injury. There are many ways to injure oneself. Risk-taking behaviors such as car racing, ignoring health problems, and promiscuous sex. I've seen many Jehovah's Witnesses, like with skidoos. I know one who was an elder at one time, left the organization, become disgruntled, was disfellowshipped, and died young in a snowmobile accident. He drank a lot and couldn't get the things out of his head. Substance abuse, eating disorders. Many Jehovah's Witnesses have that. They battle with weight, and alcohol is the only thing they can use. So most Jehovah's Witnesses overdrink. I went up north, even I had Jehovah's Witnesses sneaking alcohol on the plane into dry communities. We're supposed to be out there preaching, but alcohol is so important to a lot of them. Cutting or other forms of self-mutilation. So there's many ways that Jehovah's Witnesses escape the indoctrination that they're in. Explosive or extremely inhibited anger may alterate. So the Watchtower Society does not permit expression of anger, especially towards the society. It is normal, therefore, for people to never have learned that there is a healthy way to express one's anger. And that's so true. Compulsive or extremely inhibited sexuality may alternate. This is another area where Watchtower Society has excurted its control even into the marital bedroom. Like many people who grew up with strict sexual rules, many people leave cults experiment with their sexuality but don't have a good idea about sexual boundaries. And as in most things, others are too afraid to leave behind the strict rules that have been imposed upon them. So this is certainly a problem with cults and people coming out. Alterations in consciousness, including transient disassociating episodes. Some people may block out memory of part of their judicial committee. They can be traumatic, especially if the vote forces you out. Depersonalization, feeling like you aren't real, and derealization, feeling like what is around you isn't real. For those who were disfellowshipped or disassociated, it would be common for them to experience either of these two, a feeling like everything's not real. And that is a real feeling. I have had that. I've been disfellowshipped, and I've had family members disfellowshipped. Reliving experiences either in the form of intrusive post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms or in the form of ruminative preoccupation, going over it again and again. Yeah. Again, judicial committees are traumatic experiences. Just the threat of what might happen could be enough in some people to trigger PTSD. And I've seen it in myself and in my family members. Alterations in self-perception, including, this is number 4, a sense of helplessness or a paralysis of initiative. So there's little opportunity for self-expression and determination. All of life's choices must be examined in light of the Watchtower teachings. Self-determination and efficacy are viewed as negative traits. Leaving the JWs often means that a person has not developed critical thinking and social skills required to deal with life in the real world. Shame, guilt, and self-blame. A lifetime of being told you are not good enough, you don't do enough, and more is required, creates an identity that is shame-based. Most JWs have been trained to be on the watch for Satan is out to get them. Any weakness can only result in thoughts of self-blame and guilt, and that's so true. Sense of defilement or stigma. While being reproved is a surefire way of feeling stigmatized. Even the threat could be traumatic. If possible, outcome could result in discipline. Even if the elders never find out about certain transgressions, the person would carry the guilty secret around inside them. So the guilt is and the stigma is all a part of that religion. A sense of complete difference from others may include sense of specialness, utter aloneness, belief no other person can understand, or non-human entity. In many ways, cults foster this kind of specialness. Being a member of such an exclusive club has its perks, but at the same time, it is fostering a sense of separateness from the world It also fosters a sense of separateness for other JWs, especially if a person thinks they may be outed to the elders. So there's a lot of inside things going on in the cult. Or I call them orthodox JWs and fringe. Number 5, alterations in perception of perpetrator, including. So preoccupation, yeah, cut that. I'm going to start at 5. 5, alterations in perception of perpetrator, including preoccupation with relationship with perpetrator, includes preoccupation with revenge. It's hard to let go of the control the Watchtower Society had over our lives. We may find ourselves going over things said, especially in judicial meetings. And when we discover the real truth about their so-called truth, it's hard not to be angry at the deception and betrayal. And I think that's where a lot of us end up. We wake up, and I know for myself, I had to go through a real angry period. And I don't know, I was just angry at, and it comes out. It's hard on our bodies to stay in that mode. So we want to get out of that as quick as possible if we can. Number 6, alterations in relations with others, including isolation and withdrawal. Betrayal is nasty. It makes it very hard for people to trust again. As a result, many people withdraw from others before they can be betrayed again. Disruption in intimate relationships. Fear of further betrayal reduces trust and therefore complicates personal relationships. This can become even more complicated when the partner was never involved in the JWs. They don't understand. And that's kind of my situation. I didn't realize I had some of this PTSD, and I was fighting this. And I got married. I got remarried, left the religion, got remarried, and my partner didn't really understand what I was dealing with. I didn't even understand until recently. So this is something I think for all Jehovah's Witnesses, I think there has to be an awareness out there. And that's why we're doing these podcasts or these videos, is to help bring an awareness to help people, and realizing that many people are coming out of the Jehovah's Witness. And I think they're going to be coming out in groups. And sooner or later, they're going to form little groups or cliques, and they're just going to leave in groups. And therefore, people are going to need information. They're going to need to understand how the cult got into their mind. And there's a little bit of work in getting that out. So repeated search for the rescuer may alternate with isolation and withdrawal. Despite the fear of betrayal, some people will get involved in serial relationships, hoping to find someone who will help or save them. I can see that. Persistent distrust. Distrust can affect not only personal relationships, but can also affect relationships in the workplace as well as with friends. And repeated failures or self-protection, an unending cycle of seeking and then pushing people away, can lead many to feel even more damaged. So now we're going to move to number 7, alterations in systems of meaning. Loss of sustaining faith. Many, not all, people find it difficult to get involved in any other religion. Spirituality becomes redefined as a personal inner experience. And sense of hopelessness and despair. With so many disruptions in every part of a person's life, it is easy to think that the problem is with them rather than with the things that they were taught and their experiences with the Watchtower Society. Hopefulness and self-efficacy may seem impossible. Understanding the impact of our experience can help us to realize that it was traumatic, and our reactions are the normal reactions to it. Trauma can interfere with our daily lives, and that would be a good indication that we need to seek out some professional help. People will also go through some stages of reactions, at times handling it better than other times. For most people, the opportunity to debrief, share their experiences, and get support is essential to real recovery and the cessation of the C-PTSD symptoms. Even when most symptoms have subsided, new issues can be triggered that many or may not require professional help. There are plenty of stories here that people who have successfully moved on with their lives. So this is a good article. I think I'll leave the link in here for everyone to read through it. And I think if you've been a Jehovah's Witness, you can really, this really sits at home with you. I know it did for me. So it is a process. I know in my channel, I've been using the channel as more of a documentation of the stages I've been going through. And I started this part of the channel back in about June of 2022. So we haven't been going for quite a year. Now, I left the organization for 12 years, or for back in 2012. So I was out of it for quite a while. And this is something I think that's important to talk about because I didn't do any of the work. And she talks about it right at the end, that there's a debriefing. And I think that's so important to stress this debriefing. For most people, the opportunity to debrief and share their experiences and get support is essential to the real recovery. So we can't stress that enough. Back then, I didn't investigate. I didn't look into this as deep as I should have. I just kind of ran away from it. But the indoctrination doesn't leave. And then when we run away from it, we internalize all those feelings and all those stories. We don't necessarily talk about them. And it can cause health problems. And other problems. So we want to help people who are suffering. We're living in a time that many Jehovah's Witnesses are lashing out. We see all the shootings, a rash of them within the Jehovah's Witness organization. That's not normal. As of Christmas, this is just a few months into March, and we've had 4 incidences, and the fourth one has been the most horrific, the whole world being involved. And now everyone is looking at what is going on inside this religion. So that's what I hope I've done here. I hope I've helped people a little bit to understand what's going on inside a person, inside the religion and coming out, and how all those pictures and all that programming is really detrimental to an adult, let alone a young child. So on this channel, we have a petition. You'll see it in the descriptions. If you're Canadian, we're putting out a petition to stop funding groups that call themselves charities that discriminate, period. And Jehovah's Witnesses certainly is a group that discriminates. And by the way, they do nothing for charity. They don't help people. They don't help the poor. They don't help the old age. In fact, the old age in Bethel, they kick them out. It's a family's responsibility. The Watchtower is a very cold organization. It's a printing company, and they use religion as a mascot, and everything they do is fictional stories. It's all fictional stories, and they proclaim to be God's servants, God's truth, the only ones. The governing body is the channel to God. All the Jehovah's Witnesses have to listen to the governing body. If they don't, if they speak out, they get disfellowshipped eventually. That's how it works. Very, very high control cult. So thank you again, folks, for listening. And until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.